Alright guys, so in the last video we went ahead and got Angular 2 set up for our project and we created the core app component. Now we're going to move on and start to add some other components. Okay, so we want to add a navbar. Remember, we're building a bootstrap, just a very simple bootstrap template, and we're going to break it up into components. So we need to include bootstrap. Now you could just download the whole thing and put it in your project folder, but what we're going to do is just use the CDN just for simplicity. So let's go ahead and copy this right here. This is at bootstrapcdn.com. And then what we'll do is go to our index.html and we're going to put this right above the styles.css reference. Okay, we're just going to paste that in right there. And then we're also going to want the JavaScript right here, so we'll copy that. And for that, we're going to put it at the bottom. Put it in a source attribute. Okay, now in order for that to work, we also need jQuery. So let's say jQuery CDN. And let's see, let's get the uncompressed version 1. Copy that, put that right above the Bootstrap.js. Alright, so if we save that, and then in our application, you can see that it already updated because it's using a different font and padding. Alright, so it's now including Bootstrap. So the next thing we want to do is go to our app folder and let's create a new folder called components. Alright, and then any components we create will go in here. So a new file, and let's save this as navbar.component.ts. Alright, and then we can copy what we have, and you can see it already compiled into JavaScript. But we can copy what's in our app component and then just bring that in. Okay, we'll change the selector to navbar. And for now, let's just put some text here. We'll make this a div. And we'll just say navbar. Okay, we need to change the class name to navbar component and save. Okay, now we need to bring that into our app component, so let's go into that and then just import it. And that's going to be ./component/navbar.component. Alright, now to include it, remember for our selector we have navbar, so we need to use that. So right here, let's just say navbar. Alright, now if we save it and try to load it, we're going to get an error here. Let's see. Oh, this needs to be like that, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that we're not getting errors, but it's not being loaded. That's because we need to actually add it as a directive. Okay, this is what's called a directive. So let's go right here, put a comma, and then say directives. And then this is going to be in the form of an array, and we're just going to put in here navbar, or navbar component. Okay, so we'll save that. And then now you can see that navbar is now coming through. Alright, so just make sure that any component you create, you add as a directive. Alright, and then later on, when we work with services, you have to include each service as a provider. So now that we have that done, we want to start to bring our HTML for our navbar. So if we go to getbootstrap.com and we go to getting started, and there's some examples down here. If we click on examples, we have this starter template with a navbar. So if we do a Control U and we look at the source code, this is what we want right here, this nav tag. Alright, now as we have it now, we would have to put it, if we look at our navbar component, we would put it all in this one string, and I don't want to do that. What I want to do is have a separate file for this HTML. Alright, so what we can do is in our components folder right here, let's actually create a folder called navbar. Okay, and then I'm going to move Let me close these. What I'm going to do is move these 3 files into Navbar. And I don't think I can do it from here, can I? No, I'll just have to go to my folder in Windows. Alright, so A2 website, app, components, and then we're just going to bring these 3 files over. Alright, so that way we have a special, just a folder for that one component. So I'm also going to create another file, and I'm going to save it as navbar.component.html. Alright, and then in here, for now, let's just say navbar template, and we'll save that, and then go back into the navbar component, and instead of template, we're going to have template URL, and then in here, we're going to say navbar.component.html. Okay, and to be able to do this using a relative path, we actually have to add something to the component decorator. We have to add module ID, and then we have to set that to module.id. Alright, in order to use relative paths. So let's save that. And then since we moved everything into a navbar folder, we have to go to our app component TS and just add that right here. Okay, so now if we save it and we go back, you can see that it's loading the navbar template. So now we can go to the HTML and we can copy this nav tag right here and just paste that in. And we'll change a couple things. I'm going to get rid of this navbar fixed top class, and then we'll change the project name to A2 website. And for the links, let's just have the home and the about for now. Okay, we're going to get into the router later on. So let's go ahead and save that. And now if we look, you can see it looks like this. Now the heading needs to go under the navbar. So in our app component, let's just go ahead and actually, you know what we'll do is just take that whole thing out, that H1. Okay, and then that should just give us the navbar. Now, let's say we want the logo here or the text for this to be a property of our component. Alright, so to do that, in our navbar TS, let's go into the class right here, and we're going to say private project name, and let's set that. Actually, we're not going to set that here. We're going to define it as a string, and then we'll have a constructor, okay, which is going to run every time the component is initialized. And in here, we'll say this dot project name, and let's set that to A2 website and save it. And then in our HTML, we should be able to replace this with double curly braces and project name. Save it, and you can see A2 website. Alright, so that's how we can add a property to our component and then use it in the HTML. So that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we're going to start on the Jumbotron component and also the page components.